Hello and welcome to everyone to the the 16th Turkish Arab Economic Forum. Thank God I've been here for 4 of them, and it's always a pleasure to be here. I want to thank Murat Efe for this wonderful organization, also the Finance Ministry for their contributions as well, and all the sponsors. Every year I normally start with a little joke because, to be honest, the finance guys have a much better sense of humor than the foreign ministry guys and the defense guys, but this year, the global backdrop, everything that's been happening, I don't think it's right to be joking around. So it's a much more serious and more somber global backdrop as 5 days from now, it'll be the 2-year anniversary of October 7th. And I always feel that we're saying all these financial challenges. I mean, it was the Arab Spring, it was COVID, it was war in Ukraine, now war in Gaza. It seems that the challenges just are never ending and they're getting more and more. So, I mean, that's a lot of challenge and a lot of workload on your shoulders, Mr. Deputy Finance Minister. Is it not? Now, I want to ask you, this panel being about regional integration in economics and finance, very, very important because economy is the backbone and the safety net of all diplomatic relations. What are the key areas that you're focusing on as one of the top finance men in the Republic of Turkey?
Thank you, Yusuf Bey. In fact, since our Minister Şimşek stressed in his presentation, we are living global challenges. And over the past decades, the world economy has faced a series of powerful and overlapping shocks. That's why this includes, as you said, the pandemic and its impacts on supply chain and surging inflation, energy market volatility, and the growing geopolitical tensions. And these disruptions have negatively impacted countries and deeply shaken the foundations of the global economic order. And they have exposed vulnerabilities and increased the uncertainty and intensified the economic fragmentation. And in fact, at the same time, this protectionist trends and the geopolitical competition threaten to further erode the global cooperation and putting pressure on international trade and investment. In this context, regional economic integration is no longer a choice. It is a necessity. And it offers a strategic and pragmatic path to building economic resilience, promoting sustainable growth, and strengthening the welfare. And the stronger regional ties can boost the market efficiency, stabilize the supply chain, and drive innovation through the shared resources. Today, in fact, I would like to highlight 2 key areas that are essential to advancing the regional economic integration in this challenging environment. The first is the strategic role of investment. The second is the importance of the free trade agreements. The first, the investment lies at the center of the regional integration. Cross-border capital flows, joint infrastructure projects, and the technology transfer are critical to building interconnected and dynamic economies. And however, these investments require a predictable, stable, and harmonized regulatory environment. In Turkey, we have introduced a new investment incentive system that is targeted and efficiency-focused. It supports the productive sectors and the regional development and the green and the digital transformation. And we have also published Turkey's International Direct Investment Strategy this year and the YOIC Action Plan to improve our investment climate. And these initiatives aims to attract the value-added and the knowledge-intensive investments while enhancing the alignment with global climate and the sustainability goals. And also these efforts are not about attracting the capital, but also about generating innovation, creating jobs, and ensuring the long-term economic resilience. And second, the free trade agreements. Free trade agreements are the key to unlocking the regional potential. In fact, in a rising protectionist climate, free trade agreements offers stable rules that reduce the tariffs, unify the standards, and boost the economic cooperation. And today, Turkey has free trade agreement with 54 countries. As my minister mentioned in his presentation, this in fact integrating us into the $30 trillion economic zone. And much of our foreign trade is with friendly and neighboring countries, and strengthening the supply chain through friendshoring and the nearshoring. And these agreements help us build a more competitive, flexible, and resilient markets. And they also reinforce Turkey's strategic position as a regional trade and production hub, linking to Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. And as I said, Turkey is navigating this uncertain global landscape with confidence, thanks to our economic program, as also Minister Şimşek stressed the economic program. We have reduced the external vulnerabilities, strengthening the macro financial stability, and diversified both our market and products. And our strategic approaches to the investment, trade, and export promotion is strengthening our economy. And it also contributes to regional stability and supply chain security and shared prosperity. In conclusion, to overcome today's global economic challenges, we must look inward, strengthening our regional partnership and outward remain connected to the global markets, and focusing on the strategic investment, clear trade rules, and empowering the exporters build a resilient, competitive, and inclusive environment. And Turkey is committed to playing it as it's part of working with regional and the global partners to shape a more suitable, stable, and prosperous economic future. And mainly for the regional cooperation, I want to mention these topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister Çelik. Now, I'm a geopolitics guy, and over the past 2 to 3 years, I think one of the most important things that have happened in the region has been between Turkey and Egypt. I don't even want to call it a normalization. I want to call it a rediscovery of an old friendship, because they forgot how important they are to each other and to the region as well. So I always think that that's the bilateral relationship that can not only shape the region, but also protect the region going forward as well. Great to see the Deputy Minister of Finance from Egypt, Mr. Yasser Sobi. I know he wants to talk a little about his country. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. And first, I would like to thank the Turkish government and Al-Iktissad Wal-Aamal for organizing this event, for the hospitality, great hospitality, and for organizing this successful event. One thing I think we agree on the need to coordinate, to integrate, but I think the most important thing, that the lesson that we learned, is that we need to trust the private sector. The private sector has proved to have a very good response when there is the right policies. There is a good response. They respond positively on trade, investments, and on applying all the positive things for the economy. In Egypt, we are tackling this through three main issues, if we can share with you a few things. One is stability and predictability. The other thing is productivity and opportunity. And I think if we speak about stability, the fiscal policy is trying to make the balance between achieving the fiscal targets over the medium term, but at the same time to foster growth. And this is very important. This balance is very important. And recently we had a good turnaround. So we are seeing that tax revenue has increased in 24-25 by 35%. We have a realized primary surplus for the sixth consecutive year, but in 24-25, this has reached 3.5% of GDP. Debt to GDP was reduced by 10 percentage points of GDP in 2 years. External debt, the government's external debt was reduced by $4 billion in 2 years. So all this is providing a good base for stability, for the flourishing the business sector. But this also was accompanied by a good performance in growth. So GDP growth in 24-25, just the numbers were released 2 days ago, had achieved 4.4% during 24-25. This is up from 2.2 the previous year. So that's show how fast the economy is growing. And this was led by the private sector. Private sector investments increased by 70%, 70%. And that's, so the total private investments now is around 60% of total investments. That was only 50% or less than 50% a year ago. The main sectors that are leading the growth is manufacturing, tourism, the technology, the ICT sectors. So that's also the quality of growth itself is being improved. Also, there is stability. Inflation is down from 35% to around 12% during the last months, year on year. And net foreign assets has increased from a negative to $15 billion and then to $18 billion in very short period. So that's all this together is providing a stable environment for the private sector to grow and to predict and to have a good forecasting for the medium term. The other thing is productivity. And I think Egypt has invested a lot during the last 10 years in infrastructure, in all infrastructure areas, not only roads, but also on the ports, on the energy, the electricity grids, the technology, the fiber optics. And so there is a good infrastructure to build on, providing opportunities for the business community. And of course, we are using any fiscal space that we have to improve the human capital in health, education, and that. And third thing, I think, is opportunities. And the government is applying a lot of good initiatives to support the private sector in several sectors, like, for example, in manufacturing, in tourism, in car manufacturing. So this kind of initiatives, in addition to private-public partnerships. And we have, for example, the Suez Canal zone that is now attracting hundreds of new companies. FDIs have increased during the first 9 months. It was $10 billion, the largest in Africa in general. So that's, I think, is providing a lot of opportunities. The good thing about the economy is well diversified. So it's not only in one sector, but across the sectors there are a lot of opportunities. Energy is part of this kind of the renewable energy. We have contracts now of around 20 giga during the next few years. This is like investments of $45 billion worth investments, and all for the private sector. So the opportunities are there. So that's, I think, how we are dealing with the situation to enhance the private sector, which is the main engine for growth and for coordination and integration with the region. And of course, we are receiving a lot of new Turkish investments as well, and we are very happy and supportive for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister Sobi. Now, when we talk about challenges, I don't think there's another country in the region that has faced as many challenges as Libya has over the past decade, but a very resilient country, rising from its ashes, can I say, now stable, ready to take its place again, not only amongst the international community, but back in the region as it's eyeing regional integration. And to talk a little more about this, we have the chairman of the Libyan Foreign Bank, Mohammed Ali Adara. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Yusuf, dear colleagues. First of all, I want to thank Taf and the team of the Turkish Arab Forum for organizing this continuously and providing the opportunity to talk about very important topics, even though they may not necessarily be very exciting or fun to talk about, but they're important. And there's nothing more important at this moment, I'm sure, in all of our minds and hearts than what's happening in Gaza. And I wanted to acknowledge our support for the flotillas and those heroes who are trying to break the siege on the people of Gaza, wishing that they are safe and that they achieve their objective. And we hope and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to end this war and this tragedy that the people of Gaza are suffering from. Today's topic is, integration across the region, and there's so many different topics that we can talk about when it comes to either Libya or North Africa, and the role that it can play regionally, but on the economic side, most importantly. The regional opportunities are always a double-edged sword. The appetite for opportunities and success usually drive us towards, trying to achieve an objective, whether it's economic growth, reform, development. However, when we're looking back with hindsight as 2020, rarely do we take that path as a lesson learned to drive the plan going forward. And I think from a challenge in Libya, we've been in quote-unquote transition for 14 years. That is probably a very difficult process to go through even for a short period of time, but 14 years of being in limbo from an economic standpoint and political standpoint, and more importantly, security standpoint, that has been the main challenge. The opportunities as far as the wealth that Libya has been blessed with, the regional and the geographic presence, the talent that we have, a fairly small population, very homogeneous, very little friction or sort of organic tensions that we've had in the past. However, when you look back in the 14 years, that doesn't really reflect that. We've had, unfortunately, a lot more negative milestones than positive. However, as you said, the resilience of the Libyan people is probably one of our strengths. But even more importantly, it's the ability to be able to navigate challenges quickly. So the enemies of yesterday are sitting at the table today. Some of the allies of yesterday are having disagreements, but in different formats. We're not seeing the weaponizing of conflicts as much. And these are all good signs. But one of the main reasons for that is because of the economic situation. And it has stabilized. We're seeing a huge surplus in FDI coming into Libya, not just in the energy sector, but in many different sectors. And banking is a key component of this. We have a long legacy with Turkey and with Arab Turk Bank, which is the main sponsor for today's event. This has been a platform for driving economic trade and trade financing in the region, not only in Libya, for a long period of time. One of the things that we're facing when it comes to that challenge that you mentioned, Yusuf, is letting perfection getting in the way of good. What I mean by that is sometimes we draw an objective or a target that's a perfection, something that ideal we'd like to achieve. And then when we don't necessarily achieve it all the way, we consider ourselves either failed or we start to derail. We start to look to alternative plans. And this is a very big challenge, especially in banking and in finance in general. So we cannot continue to let perfection get in the way of good. We have to have some key deliverable milestones, short-term, low-hanging fruits in order to fuel. And this will achieve another objective, which is rebuild confidence, not only in the banking sector and in governments. Right now, there's a huge disconnect between the people and the way we are governing, whether it's economically or politically, being able to achieve some low-hanging fruits, I think we'll start to rebuild some of this confidence. And I'll give an example here when it comes to the quality of life. We talk about a lot of metrics. We saw a lot of metrics with regards to GDP, trade, bilateral trade, free trade agreements, etc. I think all of us would agree that the key metric that drives whether we're successful or not, or is if we are able to improve the quality of life of our people throughout the region. And this is not unique to a certain people on the back of others. No, across the board, equality. Mr. Shimshek, His Excellency, today talked about this and the success story of what Turkey is facing and a long legacy of a conflict and how it provides an opportunity. This is exactly the metric that will determine whether we're successful or not. How impactful can we be in improving the quality of life of our people? We talk about free trade from a legal standpoint and customs and all that stuff. One of the other components, in my opinion, of free trade that has to be in the forefront is the free flow of information. Technology, innovation, AI relies heavily on information. Information is power. When we're not able to see information across the region, it's very difficult to make informed decisions. And this is something that is a key component, I think, from a banking standpoint, and I'll close with this point. Banking right now, every time we talk about banking today, people think of compliance, controls, money laundering, AML, regulations, oversight. That's probably 2/3 of the focus of any topic when it comes to finance and banking. Not necessarily on the commercial side. Why? Because I think that's there. It's an opportunity that is existing. It's organic. However, those who are successful are the ones who are able to solidify their lines of defense and the controls and the oversight. And this can only be as strong as your weakest link. So this has to be a regional integration topic. We can't be strong in the banking sector in Libya or in Egypt or in Jordan or in Saudi or any specific country and think that we're going to be successful. It has to be a regional integration. I think the Arab League plays a big role in this when it comes in the training and the development platforms as far as bringing the skills up. But I think even from a legislation standpoint and regulations, we need to take several steps forward in order to improve that. And I think this really summarizes the real regional integration from an economic standpoint that we are missing today. And I think the opportunity as a compass is good, but we have to have other barometers to make sure we don't get derailed and let perfection get in the way of good.
Thank you, Mr. Aldarat. A great overview from all three of you gentlemen, but I want to dive a little deeper now. Deputy Minister Çelik, now, Turkey has a strategic position, whether it be geopolitical, geographic, historical, cultural. Now, how is it leveraging that, its commitment to climate-friendly infrastructure, its relationship with multilateral development banks? How is it leveraging that to strengthen regional integration?
Thank you. As I mentioned in the first part of my speech, I believe that the regional integration is a vital driver of the sustainable growth and the shared prosperity. And by linking the markets, harmonizing the standards, and opening the new trade corridors, it reduces the cost, strengthens the stability, and fosters the inclusive development. And with this, it is a unique geography. Turkey is well positioned to advance economic integration between the Arab world and the European Union. And the core element of our vision for the regional integration is the establishment of regional connectivity supported by sustainable, customer-focused green projects that respond to the needs of partner countries and local communities. To this end, Turkey is investing significantly in transport and energy corridors designed to lower carbon footprint and ensure the long-term environmental responsibilities. And Turkey applies the most suitable financing model to each project. And for example, the Dört Yol Hassa and the Kars-Dilucu railway projects were realized through the engineering, procurement, construction, and finance. That's the EPCF model. And this project reinforcing the Mediterranean energy and trade flows. And another project, the Kars-Tivri section of the Eastern Turkey Middle Corridor Railway, is co-financed by the World Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and the Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank, with a total investment of $1.1 billion. Likewise, the planned in-rail corridor is financed by international financial institutions, reflecting Turkey's preference for strong multilateral partnership when projects extend across the borders. And this preference is further reinforced by Turkey's position as a major shareholder, like in Islamic Development Bank, which adds unique value to regional integration. And also this partnership not only mobilized significant funding for green and sustainable infrastructure, but also enables the Arab countries to benefit from the bank's financial strength and technical expertise. Through this connection, Turkey helps ensure that the regional connectivity projects are both economically sound and socially impactful. Moreover, with 45 firms on the top of the 250 list, Turkish constructors ranked among the world's most competitive ones. And also this firm, these construction companies, delivering over $20 billion in global projects. Display Turkey's commitment to regional integration through efficient, climate-friendly infrastructure. And in this context, the free trade agreements and the financial partnership enlarge and emerge as a key driver of the regional economic integration. You know, there are the 57 members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which is the second largest international organization after the United Nations, and accounts for only around 11% of global trade. This highlights the urgency of strengthening the economic cooperation. By deepening the trade opportunities with the Islamic world, the countries can collectively increase their share in global commerce. And a crucial step toward achieving this shared vision is the conclusion of comprehensive free trade agreements. In this spirit, we have resumed negotiation for a free trade agreement between Turkey and the Gulf Cooperation Council. I am confident that this agreement will be concluded promptly through the win-win principle. And at the same time, finance plays a critical role in advancing this regional integration. As Muslims, we represent nearly 25% of the world's population. Yet, despite this size, the global Islamic finance sector accounts for only around $2.5 trillion. And this clearly shows that we are far behind our potential, and it should be further increased. With this unique position and the vast potential, the Istanbul Financial Center offers strong advantages for advancing the Islamic finance and fostering the regional economic integrations. In sum, the regional integration is not only a pathway to share prosperity and stability, but also a cornerstone for building resilient, sustainable, and future-oriented economies. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister Çelik. Vice Minister Sobi, now, we talked a lot about challenges today. I think every one of the speakers has touched on that. When you look at these challenges and obstacles, which ones are the biggest obstacle for regional integration? And also, out of the people here listening, you have bankers, you have investors, you have business owners. what type of opportunities can they find in this type of regional integration going forward?
Thank you. I think let's speak about the free trade agreements that we have. For example, in Egypt we have free trade agreements with Turkey. We have free trade agreements with the EU. We have free trade agreements with the African countries. We have free trade agreements with Arab countries. And I think this lead to a lot of opportunities, but we need to grab these opportunities. And I think one thing is to prepare domestically the economy, the stability, and that is very important, and to provide this kind of integration and a lot of meeting between the private sector in each of countries. On the challenge, I think you spoke about energy, and I think this is one of the challenges, but we have to have a comprehensive approach to deal with this. This part of it is through pricing, part of it through exploration and production, part of it through energy mix, and this together can have a very good plan to deal with. And one example of coordination and cooperation between countries in the region is on the electricity connectivity. And I think there is already between Egypt and Sudan, there is a great connection on electricity. Now we are very close to finalize with Saudi Arabia. And in Egypt, we are investing a lot on upgrading the grid itself, so it can absorb all the new renewables that are coming from wind, solar, and other types of renewable energy. And this, I think, would have a big shift and a good dealing with this. Another one is financing, and I think we know that financing in general, it's challenging with all what's happening in the global economy and the global markets. But I think diversification is very important. We have, of course, have secured some concessional financing with international organizations which are important. But then for the first time in 3 years, we return back to the international markets, starting with a Euro bond in the beginning of the year. And then we have 2 issues of Sukuk in the international markets. The last one is 2 days ago, and I think it went very well. As the markets now is very favorable conditions to get financing from, and I think many Arab countries as well had taken this opportunity, seized the opportunity. So providing this infrastructure, energy, financing, I think will enable the private sector to invest more and to have this kind of cooperation and coordination. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister Sobi. Chairman Adarat, you talked a little about technology, which gave me the idea to ask you this question. Now, we're entering an era of AI, robotics, cryptocurrencies. I mean, there's a lot of unknown in the future, quantum computing maybe, and I mean, it's obviously going to revolutionize the finance sector, probably change the way we do business, probably change a lot of things across the board in business, finance, economics, and maybe even politics. Even though it's uncertain, how do you see these technologies supporting regional integration? I mean, how can finance ministries, how can banks, how can consumers, how can businessmen benefit from this new industrial and financial revolution that's coming?
It's a very interesting question. I think if I had the answer to that, I'd be a very rich man right now. That is, I think, the essence of the issue is that you only know what you know. And I think one of the biggest dynamics that we're going through today, as opposed to the, let's say, the dot-com boom, you know, the sort of the most recent technology transformation that we saw after the Y2K and that period, is the resistance to change has been replaced with a panic to adapt, meaning that there's such a rush. You know, every organization, banking organization has a metric on AI adaptability. You saw this morning, His Excellency Shimshek showed that metric. That's being presented in board presentations today. And everybody's panicking that they're going to be left out or they're not going to catch up. And this, I think, addresses the point I opened with, is letting the perfection get in the way of good. Is I think we have to, on a regional basis, establish what is the objective out of these technologies, out of these platforms. I have a good friend of mine, Dr. Abdullah Kablan, who wrote a book. It's called Artificial Wisdom. And it talks about this topic of transformation of blockchain and all these other platforms, but is how do you utilize it is not a one-size-fits-all. So I think one of the challenges is on a regional basis, whether it comes to reform from control standpoint, enhancing services that we provide to the actual end users, whether it's consumers or corporate, and then even more importantly, the information sharing topic I talked about. AI and other systematic transformations can help fix this in a very quick, I don't want to put timelines on it, but it can be very quick. The biggest roadblock in front of that today in every country is legislation. So in Libya, for example, we're still struggling with electronic signatures. I think a lot of countries still have that. While you've got digital banks that don't even have an office located, and you have other forms of authentication and security checks, we're still struggling whether an email is an official document or not. So this is the gap that really needs to be closed quickly. I don't want to sort of minimize the challenge, but they sound trivial, but they are really the biggest roadblocks, in my opinion. We're putting roadblocks in front of us by shooting ourselves in the foot when it comes to legislation, in my opinion. The fix is not an easy one. It's very difficult to get politicians to agree on making decisions. We see what's happening with the US right now. The government is shut down because they can't agree on a certain line item. So it's a huge challenge, but I think it's an inevitable task that has to be done. And the quicker we acknowledge it and fix it, the quicker we'll be able to catch up. And then we need to avoid the slippery slope of imitation as opposed to innovation. Innovation doesn't necessarily mean doing what the neighbor is doing. It's doing or utilizing technology and platforms to achieve what you need to achieve. It's not necessarily to do the same thing as what the neighboring region is doing. Everybody has a unique objective, and I think we need to recalibrate what that target is, or what does good look like for us, in order for us to ensure that we use the tools to achieve the goal, as opposed to just using the tools for the sake of using the tools.
Thank you, Chairman Atarat. We were supposed to have the Iraqi Minister of Finance on the panel also, but I believe he's in a bilateral right now. So we've been left with 3 guests, but I think they did a fantastic job. And to get us back on schedule, I think I'm going to give Deputy Minister Chedik a minute or two to give some closing thoughts before I close out the panel so we can get back to our regular schedule.
Thank you. And in fact, I try to focus on the importance of the regional economic integration and the importance of the finance for regional cooperation. In fact, working with the IFIs and using the alternative financial tools will create value for the region. And I believe that we have the potential and we have to use this potential. And then we are very pleased to host our brothers and sisters in our country on the occasion of this 16th Turkish Arab Economic Forum. And I believe that these events will open new opportunities to help to further deepen our economic ties. And also, I want to thanks again to Murad Bey and his team for organizing this event. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Adrat wanted to say something. You were signaling?
Yeah, no, just as a closing comment, I think, to put things in relevance to some examples when I talked about the legislation, just as a closing comment. There's one of the biggest challenges, I think, as Mr. Shimshek was just, Chelik was talking about, the idea of development and restoring the trust and the relationships has to be a primary focus. Right now, we cannot let the rosy picture that we are all seeing distort some of the challenges. We have to be honest and we have to tackle on some of these challenges, and the issue of rebuilding confidence in between the countries in the different region is a priority, and the banking sector plays a huge role in this transformation that I'm hoping to see very soon here in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, in the spirit of Turkish hospitality, I'm assuming Deputy Minister Çelik will want me to give Vice Minister Sobi the final word then, as host to our guest.
Thank you very much. And I think, again, the global economy, yes, there are a lot of challenges, but it's also there are a lot of opportunities. And it's time for us to seize these opportunities. We have to embrace technology. We have to move fast. And I think with the reforms, the right policies, and keeping the momentum for a long time, I think this will lead for a better future for all our countries. Thank you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Deputy Minister Osman Çelik, Vice Minister of Finance from Egypt, Yasser Sobi, and Chairman of the Libyan Foreign Bank, Mohamed Ali Adarat. I was your host, Editor-at-Large of TRT World, the Turkish public broadcaster, Yusuf Erim. Thanks for listening to our panel. I hope it was informative.
Everybody, thank you again for being here. We'll start directly from the UAE. I would like to present the Group CEO of Ras Al Khaimah Economic Zone, Mr. Rami Jallad, to introduce us about opportunities in Ras Al Khaimah. Mr. Rami.